In the early morning, it was most severe. The move in the equity markets was most severe, like around 5, 6 in the morning, and the bond markets were up quite a bit. Oddly enough, the Fed funds market started to price in some type of a chance of an actual ease tomorrow, which is really outrageous. And then it kind of very quickly sort of recalibrated itself. And I think that people start to realize that it was just really sort of strictly an equity, an equity situation, and bond markets, short rate markets sort of just went back to sort of being normal.
Right.
So it was more like really of an early morning thing.
Right. We're talking here, depending on when we get this out, it's January 28th. Tomorrow we have a double meetings, right?
Yeah.
The Bank of Canada in the morning, then we've got the Fed. The Fed's obviously expected to do nothing, hold steady. Their economy seems to be doing better than ours. How did that affect our bonds and core futures?
Actually, in the 30 years I've been trading, I don't think there's ever been a day that I can remember where both meetings are on the same day.
Really?
I don't know. Do you remember?
I don't. No, I don't. That's true.
I remember. I definitely. I can't remember that ever happening.
Yeah, I'm not.
They've had moves on the same day when there's crisis situations.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't remember a double meeting. That's for sure. It's always there were always double employments and things like that, but never.
Exactly.
Double rate announcements, which is odd, but we're I guess diverging a bit from the U.S. for sure.
Yeah, we have been for quite some time.
What's going on as of today? Is there any?
Well, it's essentially 100%. The pricing is 100% chance of a 25 basis point ease tomorrow in Canada, and a 100% chance of no move by the Fed,
right?
Which will take the difference in the two overnight rates between the Fed and Bank of Canada to 125 basis points, which is also probably quite anomalous in history if you look at it. Right. I don't know if it's ever been like that, before.
Mm-hmm.
Big spread between interest rates, which of course is hurting our dollar and whatnot, but that,
right.
There seems to be so many different things going on to justify that. It's hard to sort of wrap your head around it all,
Right. And there's no chance of 50 tomorrow? Is there a small chance?
No. Well, there's always a chance, but not in the pricing of the markets,
The markets aren't pricing. No crazy bids.
Yeah, the one futures month the front month futures, which is the nearest to expiry, that prices things very, very accurately, is pricing in a 100% chance of 25 basis points lower and 0% chance of 50.
Okay.
So, but again, anything, especially with the Bank of Canada, anything can happen.
Right. Yeah. Right. And what are you seeing? What are your thoughts on going forward? What's the market telling us today? And do you have any thoughts that are counter to
so the pricing in the market right now in Canada is for 25 basis points lower tomorrow, and then another 25 at either the March meeting or the April meeting, and then sort of another one more 25 point move till the end of the year.
So is it slow?
So on aggregate, the market's pricing 75 basis points lower rates in 2025 and more front end loaded. So tomorrow and the next two meetings, which are March and April, the next two meetings, and then one more quarter point move from sort of April all the way out to December.
Right. So, has that changed a bit? Because they were kind of at 50. I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, prior to our inflation numbers, which came out, was it last week or the week before last? We were pricing in essentially one 25 point move in the next two meetings, and then maybe one more.
Right.
Since then, they've sort of added on one more in the nearer term, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought. So
Yeah.
potentially it's back to 3 cuts this year from 2 for
Yeah.
sure and one that was kind of lukewarm.
So right now it's pricing 3 cuts, and 2 of those 3 are being priced in the spring. Well, one for sure tomorrow. If they don't go tomorrow, it would be a real shocker. So one very quick tomorrow, and then another one within the next month or so, and then one more sort of going out, you know.
So are you
25 basis points lower and 0% chance of 50. So, but again, you know, anything, especially with the Bank of Canada, anything can happen. You know?
Right. Yeah. And what are you seeing? What are your thoughts on going forward? What's the market telling us today? And do you have any thoughts that are counter to?
So the pricing in the market right now in Canada is for 25 basis points lower tomorrow, and then another 25 at either the March meeting or the April meeting, and then sort of another one more 25-point move till the end of the year.
So is it still
on aggregate, the market's pricing 75 basis points lower rates in 2025 and more front-end loaded. So tomorrow and the next 2 meetings, which are March and April, the next 2 meetings, and then one more quarter-point move from sort of April all the way out to December.
So has that changed a bit? Because we were kind of at 50.
Yeah. I mean, prior to our inflation numbers, which came out, was it last week or the week before last? We were pricing in essentially one 25-point move in the next 2 meetings, and then maybe one more.
Right.
Since then, they've sort of added on one more in the nearer term, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought. So potentially it's back to 3 cuts this year from 2 for sure and one that was kind of lukewarm.
So right now it's pricing 3 cuts, and 2 of those 3 are being priced in the spring. Well, one for sure tomorrow. If they don't go tomorrow, it would be a real shocker. So one very quick tomorrow, and then another one within the next month or so, and then one more sort of going out, you know.
So are you
25 basis points lower and 0% chance of 50. So, but again, you know, anything, especially with the Bank of Canada, anything can happen. You know.
Right. And what are you seeing? What are your thoughts on going forward? What's the market telling us today? And do you have any thoughts that are counter to?
So the pricing in the market right now.
Do you think that resolves itself? Like, do we just continue along this way, especially if they're going to do another 3 and there's nothing really being priced in? Like maybe they're pricing in 1 quarter cut this year in the U.S. Maybe
they are pricing in 1 quarter cut by the fall, and then maybe another after. I have to look at my U.S. curve. Hold on, I'll tell you. They're pricing in. They're basically pricing in 1 by May.
Yeah.
Which is like 3 meetings away. You know, and that can also change.
It can change for sure. I mean,
it's very, very fast, right?
The guy over there is the hothead, and anything can happen. But
right. But, you know, there'll be pressure. There'll be a tremendous pressure on Powell from Trump to lower rates. Like the interest, just a really interesting statistic. The current interest that the U.S. is paying on its national debt, which is like now 35 trillion or something like that, 32 trillion, is the same amount that they're paying every year as the national debt was when Obama took office. So when Obama took office, whatever, in 2008, I think it was, the national debt of the U.S. was about $2 trillion.
and that's what they're paying now in interest per year,
Right.
right? So they're running north of $7 trillion budget deficits, and two trillion of that is just interest. So there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the Fed to lower rates, but the Fed doesn't control the long end of the curve.
Right.
The 5-year, the 10-year area of the curve, and the bond vigilantes are out, and there's inflation, and there's massive deficits. So you end up getting a steep yield curve, So there's, like I said,
what does that mean to the average person?
So the yield curve is, it's basically a duration curve where in the short end you can invest your money for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or you can invest out to 10 years. So the yield curve is just on the x-axis is just the duration, the time duration of the various fixed income instruments, and on the y-axis.
Hey John, it's Glenn.
So when it's steep,
at the office at about
short-term rates are
5:54.
much,
I'm gonna leave
much
at
lower
6,
than
but
longer-term
I just want to ask you a
rates.
question about this OBS.
And
having a feedback
most
on the
federal
sound.
debt, be it in
And I just
Canada
want
or
to ask
the
you a question
EU or
about
the
it, man.
US,
Okay, thanks.
is long-dated debt. Probably the average duration is like 7 to 12 years, right? So interest rates can be short, can be low in the short end, but it doesn't necessarily help governments fund their deficits.
Right.
You really need long rates to be lower, right? So I guess for the mortgage market, you look at more like 5-year.
5-year, 4-year swaps, 5-year, 5-year rates kind of thing. A lot of the price the fix off the 4-year swaps, and and then the spreads on the variables are based on what's happening in money markets and spreads and things like that. But certainly there's I think when we spoke, we might have last time we were around, and I have to remember this, we might have been around the lows of fixed rates, because they haven't, obviously they haven't dropped like the variable rate has, and fixed rates have probably bumped up a little bit recently, just because of the long end of the bond. So so a lot of interesting things here. So we've got an unprecedented spread in Canada, U.S. interest rates.
Yeah.
We have a president that wants to realign trade barriers or trade deals.
Yeah.
We have a vacuum of federal leadership in Canada. We have sticky inflation, I guess. The last one was a little bit sticky.
No, the last one was the first one that showed quite a bit of inflation month over month. But
there was better inflation month over month. The jobs were a little stronger, right?
Yeah. I mean, Canada's running. I think I can't remember the last number, but I think we're running around 2.5, somewhere between 2 and 2.5% year-over-year inflation, which is a lot better than where we were in 2022. I think there's a lot of people that would argue, myself included, that Macklin's been a little bit aggressive in lowering rates, but I think given our housing market, there's been a lot of pressure on him to ease the burden, the mortgage burden on regular Canadians.
They've done some work for sure.
It's good. It's okay.
Easing inflation. And I guess
I got it to go. I mean,
economy,
Facebook is not fucking working, but I got to go on YouTube. Right? I'm just trying on Dan's laptop, but I'm getting feedback on my phone. I think because the audio is coming, it says here desktop audio, which means I think it's the mic, right, from the desktop.
I think our growth is lower. I forget what the GDP numbers were.
Right. How do because I can't change the media to the media source, like the actual source of the audio. Can I do that?
On last unemployment number, Ontario I think came out at 7.6, and Toronto's unemployment rate is 9%.
Wow.
So
it's muted right now.
Bubbling under the surface is an economy.
Oh, let me
rates now.
Low 4%.
Yeah, so I think 4%, paying 4%, which is a very, very good deal.
Yeah.
You know, and that your whatever income you have, you should only buy a house that you can afford to pay 4% interest rate on. You know,
Right.
that seems very fair to me, right? If you're borrowing money and you're only paying the bank 2% mortgage rate, housing prices are just going to go through the roof again, right? Because
Right.
you know you can your disposable income, what you can allocate to your mortgage just becomes so elevated, you know, relative to other countries and what they're paying for real estate, you know, if that makes any sense, you know.
Right. So going back to crazy man across the border.
Yeah.
When he says 51st state or
No.
whatever, no, just
No.
joking around. He's just playing his.
Well, I mean, whether he believes it or not, I don't think that. I just don't think that there's. I don't think that there's anyone that would, you know. I don't even know. I don't even have words to try to say what, you know.
Like, what could we do about it? Like, legitimately.
Yeah.
Justin would say no.
I mean, it's definitely. I'm a bond trader, so I'm not a military or political science expert, but I would suspect that there would be quite a few countries, namely Britain and others, that would have something to say about U.S. trying to invade Canada. You know.
Right.
So.
Right. So you, as a Bank of Canada governor, Kevin Barbanel, probably tomorrow, 29th, you would cut because it's already in the market, and after that, you just let it sit for a bit. And
yeah. I mean, I would hate to shock the market, but the market, you know, I think Trump's more dangerous from a policy perspective, trade policy perspective, you know, for Canada, you know, because we're so dependent on the U.S., you know, and they depend on us for a lot too. Like we export a tremendous amount of hydroelectricity to them and whatnot, but we're not going to win in a trade war with the U.S. No one's going to win in that, and so I think that it's imperative that whoever our next leader is, that they sort of make peace with Trump, you know. I don't even know where this whole tariff stuff is coming from him, you know. His dislike of Trudeau, or, you know, I don't know. In his first term, was there any talk of tariffs with Canada? I can't remember. I don't think so.
I don't think so. But I think his mandate is the border. His mandate is crime. Seems to think that a ton of it, I guess, comes through our border, the fentanyl and stuff like that. So
yeah,
you know, it's a new mandate, stronger one, I think, with the with the border stuff, and I do think Trudeau kind of, they all took him for granted, never thinking he was going to win again, and throwing shade at him for the last year or so.
Yeah.
Even his feminist Trudeau said they should have elected a female.
Yeah.
And then he threw Krista Freeland under the bus like a week later.
Right.
But,
right. I do think that the dollar could be very problematic. You know.
Yeah, it could. The tariff thing, it could make our dollar.
Yeah, not only the tariff thing, the interest rate differential, and you know, one of the things that Trudeau was really, amongst many things that he was bad at, was productivity in Canada is just gone terrible, right? So we're not producing, we're not productive like the way we used to be. You know,
majority of the jobs have been public sector jobs too.
Public sector job. Value creation was, you know, he doubled or not doubled, he increased the federal workforce, I think, by 50% in his 9 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, we all know that that's, you know, not always the most productive space, you know, and spending has been out of control. So low interest rates, you know, big difference in interest rates in Canada and US, unproductive country, or relatively unproductive country. I don't know. The dollar might have trouble unless there's a commodities boom, right? You know?
maybe could happen.
Which could very well happen, but I think that the new, whether it's the liberals who get back in power or the conservatives, that they need to sort of right the ship a little bit on Canada and get back to, making things here and putting money into increasing our productivity, our economy, and focus a little bit less on, virtues thing, whatever you want to call Trudeau's policies,
Right. And before we go, I might as well have your thoughts on Carney. We both were trading when Carney was Bank of Canada governor. We were both
yeah
pretty serious. So what are your thoughts on him?